everyone, welcome to Castle Hill Nature Reserve. We're here just on the outskirts of Brighton. I'm here with Alice Parfitt from Buglife, who's going to talk to us about Wart-biter crickets and Changing Chalk project. So, hello Alice.
Hi Jan, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. So tell us about Changing Chalk, Buglife and Wart-biters.
Okay, so my name's Alice. I work for Buglife. We're the Invertebrate Conservation Trust, so we're a national conservation charity involved with the conservation of all invertebrates, so not just insect but invertebrates such as as well. We've got lots of projects throughout the country, sort of working with people to sort of improve habitats for invertebrates, engaging people with invertebrates, and just generally telling people how wonderful they all are. I work down here in Sussex on the Eastern Downs on a project called Changing Chalk, which is a multi-organisation, multi-partnership project. It's led by the National Trust, and we're working on the sort of the South Downs, the chalk grassland between Eastbourne and right up to the River Ada. And lots of different partners doing great work, but we're very much about looking after chalk grassland, how we can restore chalk grassland, how we can better manage chalk grassland, but also about connecting people, perhaps people that don't visit the Downs very much, connecting them up with the Downs, and also there's projects involved with sort of the historical and archaeological features of the Downs.
It's a really wide-ranging project, isn't it? There's lots of us involved.
A very wide-ranging, a really sort of diverse group of partners, which is great.
So what is that you've got in your hands?
So this is a model of our lovely Wart-biter Bush-cricket, which is what we're here to maybe see today, but hopefully hear. So this is a bush cricket rather than a grasshopper, and we know it's a bush cricket because it's got lovely long antennae. Unfortunately, my model's missing one of the antennae.
Had an incident.
He's had a little accident. And in real life, this is obviously much bigger than real life. In real life, they're about 3 centimetres long, so something like that.
That's still pretty big, isn't it?
It's pretty big. And then the females also have an ovipositor on the end, so that's their egg-laying tube, which, so this is a male. So that adds another sort of 1 to 2 centimetres on. So they're quite big for a grasshopper and cricket, and really the only one that we might confuse it with is another big species called the great green bush cricket, which we do have on site here as well. But these are our biggest crickets.
So what's special about Wart-biters? Why are you?
Why do I love a Wart-biter? Well, I suppose, they're very rare. So in Sussex, they're just in the UK, they're just known from 6 sites.
Wow.
And then within our Changing Chalk project area, we have 4 sites. So they are very constrained to where they are. So they're really endangered species. So we want to do all we can to help them help manage their habitat, help tell people about them so that people are aware of this lovely species.
So can anyone go out and look for Wart-biters and handle them, or?
No, so because they're very endangered, you need to have a licence to handle them and to look for them. But actually, if you come out somewhere like this at Castle Hill, it's got lovely footpaths all around it, you might hear them, you might even see one, but it's really, you don't want to be going round trying to find them and pick them up, so you do need a licence for that. And that's just because they're rare, and we need to look after their populations.
So for such a big cricket, we've been here about 10 minutes looking, haven't we? And we can hear them, but we haven't actually seen them. Are we likely to see them?
That is the difficult question. So yes, they're big. We can actually hear them calling around us. So there's one, I can hear one just down here.
I'll put you in the grass and see if you can hear. So what does it sound like?
So it starts off as a slow sort of quite fairly loud sort of fly, but slow. But it gathers pace, and it's supposed to sound like a bicycle wheel going down the hill. So it sort of speeds up. So actually, we're at the speeded up sort of version of it now. So it's sort of ticking away. It's going.
But if we walk towards it, it stops, doesn't it?
It does.
So we can't put you in there as a camera, because as soon as I put the camera in there, they'll go quiet, won't they?
They will.
Is that a defence mechanism?
Yeah, so basically, and there's another one singing just in this bit here. And so what they need as part of their habitat is they need really species-rich grassland, which is why we find them on chalk grassland. So Castle Hill is a perfect example of this. They've got all of these lovely flowers out at the moment. So the wart-biters feed on flowers, but also on other small invertebrates. So they're omnivorous. So they need really flower-rich grassland, but they also need it to be really warm. So they're on the edge of their range, their northern edge of their range here. So they need these lovely warm slopes of these sort of south-facing slopes of the chalk grassland. So they're sort of contained by that habitat. And then they need a mosaic of different habitats within that. So they need these sort of longer areas of grass and scrub, and that's where the males are singing from. We call it stridulating it in grasshoppers and crickets. So they sing from there, but that's also shelter from any predators, or if the weather's bad, they can just go into all of that long grass. But then they also need bare ground to lay eggs in. And then the nymphal stages need sort of shorter grassland to be able to warm up and sort of feed in. So they need this mosaic of short and long grass.
So they're quite high maintenance then?
They are very particular in their habitat. Yes, I think that's fair to say in the UK. But if you've got wart-biters on your site, that's an indication that you've got really top-notch chalk grassland habitat. And that's what we've got.
So yeah, here at Castle Hill, it's obviously a national nature reserve. It's managed by Natural England, and it's grazed, but not overgrazed, because obviously that would wipe out the wart-biter population, would it?
Absolutely. So really, management needs to be by a bit of cattle grazing in the autumn, maybe into the winter, just to break up some of the patches of long grass, but not taking all of the structure down. So the sort of the height and the structure of the vegetation is really important to our wart-biters.
So why are they called wart-biters?
The wart-biters, so this comes from, I think, an 18th century Swedish practice of actually putting them on warts and then nibbling the warts.
Okay.
I don't know whether this actually ever works. That seems to be some debate, but that's what they were apparently used for. So that's where they get their name from.
Wow. Were there more around then? Because it would be quite hard to get one.
Yes.
Now.
Yes. So as with so much of our chalk grassland, within the South Downs, but wider within the UK, the habitat becomes sort of fragmented and isolated as sort of management practices have changed, and we've got more arable, that sort of thing. So for such a big cricket, they have wings, but they don't fly at all.
Okay.
So basically, they're kind of stuck on the little sort of fragments of habitat that they're on. So as I said, we've got 4 sites within the Changing Chalk area. They can't get to the next bit of good chalk grassland unless we move them, and that's one of the things we're looking at, as to whether there are other sites within the project area that perhaps might have suitable habitat that we could move some wart-biters.
So it's quite hard connectivity wise, isn't it? Because the habitat's been separated by other things like farming, arable. So connectivity is not always an option, is it? So actually having to move them to a different site is your only option.
That's really, really important. Yes, they can't move. They walk a bit, so they can move through a site, but they can't get to new sites unless that connectivity is there. So they're kind of stuck on their sites, which obviously adds to their rarity, really. It's warming up now, which is really nice. I was worried that we wouldn't hear any wart-biters, So they do like it to be warm, and they'll only start singing when it's warm. So I mean, we could see if we can find one here. They are notoriously difficult to find for a big species. They are difficult, but there's one singing sort of around in that area. So we could go a little bit
Should we have a
closer
little
and
look?
see if we can find anything.
No promises, everyone, obviously. We'll be very lucky to see one, but hopefully you can hear. Give us a thumbs up if you can hear the sounds of the crickets. They do go quiet as soon as we walk towards them.
So this one's just stopped because I've got a bit closer. So it's difficult to then pinpoint where it is.
So are you monitoring numbers as part of the project, as
Yes.
well as sort of moving them to new sites? You're monitoring the population that's here.
Yes, so we haven't got plans yet to monitor them, to move them to any new sites. We're looking at the potential of sites. We
Okay.
haven't got one where we think, oh, that's the one that we're going to do. So we're looking at sites at the moment. But yes, we do monitor them. So they're monitored by walking transects. We have a contractor that does a lot of that. And then we listen for them, and so we count how many we can hear. But we're also training some volunteers up to help us with that monitoring, so that long term we have a band of volunteers that can help us monitor sites. We'd really like, sort of on existing sites, to sort of be able to monitor some of the corners that we can't always get to just because of time constraints. You know, if the weather's not very good, then it's difficult to get all of that monitoring in. So we're training up a team of volunteers. So if anyone would like to get involved,
How do they get hold of you if they want to be a Wart-biter volunteer?
warts
Aren't required.
warts are not required. They can drop me an email. We can put it at the end of this.
Yeah, we can put a link in afterwards.
Yeah, just let me know. We're mostly at Castle Hill doing this, but we're at a couple of other sites as well. But it's all sort of in the Brighton Lewis area. You do need to have reasonable hearing for this. So the hearing of grasshoppers and crickets is one of those things that we lose as we get a bit older. So you do need to have reasonable hearing.
So you're not being ageist. It's a physical.
Unfortunately, it's just one of those things that will happen to us all. So I've had some wonderful people come out and just have not been able to hear them. So at the moment, there's quite a lot of different sort of grasshopper and cricket noise.
Yeah.
So
How do you tell the difference between a Wart-biter and a grasshopper and a cricket?
It's practice. It's a bit like with bird song, really.
Yeah.
It's sort of getting to know some of the common ones. So at the moment, we've got this sort of high-pitched sort of little buzzing sound that almost sounds like an electricity pylon when it's got wet. That sort of buzzing noise, and that's our Brazil's bush cricket. But I can hear our Wart-biter singing quite well just in here somewhere. And as I say, it's got this slightly louder click. Starts off slowly and then gets
quicker. So Tom Lee has just joined a bit late. We're not talking about great green bush crickets, Tom. We're talking about the Wart-biter crickets, but we have mentioned great green bush crickets. But we're specifically looking and listening for Wart-biter crickets today. Alice is part of Buglife. But it's great. He saw some on the downs at Morley.
Yeah, fantastic. So great. Wart-biter bush crickets are very much a species of chalk grassland, whereas great green bush crickets you'll find in sort of scrubby areas, bramble, so sort of at the edge of the chalk grassland. I wouldn't expect to see great green bush crickets right out in
So they don't like the open.
in the middle here, but they'll definitely be around the edges, and I've seen them, and yes, I'm sure they will be at well.
Cool. Let's have a little walk through. So that's all right, Tom. You're welcome. So we're not promising you'll see them, Tom. The wart-biters are being elusive. We can hear them, but we, as yet, won't see them. But we do have... Have you named your model?
No, I've not named the model.
That's Winston over here. Winston the wart-biter. So obviously this is a bit bigger. But that's what we're looking for. More of Winston.
Might be one just dropped down in here.
So will climate change affect wart-biters if they're at the edge of their range now?
Well, that's a really interesting one. So, wart-biters are found throughout Europe. So they're on the edge of their northern range here. So they like it warm. And when we're monitoring them, we come out just onto warm, still days because that's when they're singing. As soon as the sort of cloud comes over a little bit, as it is now, they sort of quieten down. So the wart-biters themselves like it really, really warm. But the chalk grassland does suffer. So last year, this was really sort of short. It wasn't flowering as well, and that was just due to the drought. So we might end up in this position where the wart-biters are okay. They can thrive as it gets warmer, but the actual habitat that they're requiring.
It was a bit brown and crispy last year, wasn't it?
Absolutely, a bit brown and crispy. So it's a really difficult one. It might be. So they traditionally on south-facing slopes, a bit of sort of east and west, but it might be that they start using east and west-facing slopes
Okay.
that are not sort of in that direct sun.
And when the sun comes out, it is actually quite warm here. I don't know if you can see. It looks quite stormy on my screen, but it's not. It's pretty nice. I'm going to see a live catch from Alice now. She's going to be like a ninja moving in.
No, unfortunately, I don't think so. There was definitely one here, and it's done what wart-biters do best of all, and that is just drop into the long vegetation and disappear.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because they're pretty big, and yet we can see little meadow grasshoppers and such, can't we? But
yes, and Roselle's bush-crickets are here, which are much smaller, but they obviously just don't have this defence mechanism of dropping into all of the
so we've got a little grasshopper jumping around down here, if I can get him. But that is not a wart-biter.
No, so this one has definitely shut up now as we've got closer, and it's dropped into the tall grass.
So a little bit of tall grass on a site is obviously super important, as we were saying.
Well, yeah, it's a really interesting one on the downs. That the sort of the tall grass is obviously invasive. It can take over if it's not managed. But on a lot of sites, it does give the structure that the wart-biters need, that sort of longer vegetation. So you wouldn't want this sort of spreading more than this. So cattle grazing is really important in the autumn to sort of try and break that up a little bit, and yeah.
So it's all about a diverse structure, but not. Yeah. If you let the tall grass take over, we also lose all the chalk grassland flowers as well, wouldn't we?
Yes, which is the other thing that the wart-biters need. So there's a wart-biter I can hear over here singing. I bet if we walk towards it, it will be quiet, but let's try.
can hear the sheep, obviously.
It's just stopped. As I've got closer, it's just stopped, and that is typical of our wart-biters.
So it must make it really difficult to monitor them.
So when we monitor them, we're walking transects, so you can hear them in front of you, and you can pick them up, and then they just quiet as you go through, and you're not sort of going for trying to get a full population, the sort of the full numbers, but you're getting an assessment of the sort of numbers that are going, and distribution over the site as well is really important.
So you don't need photographic evidence?
No, thankfully not. We've got a lovely chalk hill blue just basking down there. Because the clouds have just come up, the butterflies have all sort of just stopped and are not flying around quite so much.
It's a really lovely example of one, isn't it? It's in really good nick. Hopefully you can see that. Chalk hill blues, so how do they differ from other blues, Alice?
So there is sort of this pale, almost a baby blue, really. They're a little bit bigger than a sort of our common blue or our Adonis blue that we might find on the chalk grassland. So it's the colour really, and that size as well.
Yeah, it's quite a big one, isn't it, the chalk hill? Some years they come out in absolute numbers, don't they? And
yes, and they can have sort of communal roosters.
Clouds of them.
Yeah, roosts as well, which is really nice.
So as part of changing chalk, are you also, is it scabious mining bees that you also?
So there's there's two scabious mining bees. Both of them are quite rare. The one that I'm particularly interested in at the moment is the large scabious mining bee, and that collects pollen from field scabious. So
Right.
This is all small scabious out in the chalk grassland. And field scabious tends to like it sort of at these slightly rougher edges. It's a bigger plant, it's got a bigger flower head, and the large scabious mining bee collects pollen just from field scabious. So you can sometimes find the bee. It's about the size of a honeybee, and it has lovely pink legs when it's collected all this pink pollen.
Very Barbie themed right now.
Indeed, yes. So it's actually quite a nice one if you ever see something like that that's about a honeybee size and it's got this lovely pink pollen on its legs. It's probably a large scabious mining bee.
So we can put some photos up afterwards as well.
Yeah, that
to show
would be
you
great. So we're trying to see if there's any records. We know this is a Castle Hill again, is a known site for large scabious mining bee. We know of a few other sites around Brighton, but it probably is other places. So if anyone ever thinks
So
they've
keep
seen
your
one,
eyes peeled.
yeah, or if you know of stands of really good field scabious as well, then that would be.
So if you've got
really useful to know.
a big amount of field scabious near you, go and have a look, see if it's got a bee on it with little pink legs, and Alice will be pleased to hear about it, I think.
I will, yes.
So we'll put Alice's details on afterwards as well. So Tom's saying, I love all the blues. I survey Ashdown Forest each year for the fragile silver studded blues. Very nice. Same 7 weeks over the same transect each year. This year has been the best ever for numbers during my 5 years of surveying. Well, that's
Brilliant.
good.
That's excellent news. Really good to hear.
You're lucky to live near silver studded blues. So can't hear any wart-biters at the moment.
No, I think they've quieted
It's gone a
down.
bit cold here. The sun has definitely gone over. If you see the sky, we're under a big cloud. Well, that's great, Tom, that you do that. Is that for butterfly conservation? Is that a proper transect that you do? That's really cool. We've got lots of lovely chalk grassland flowers. All small scabious. We've got round-headed rampion. So that's the pride of Sussex. We've got some yellow rattle seed. So yellow rattle's gone over. It's a really lovely spot if you live near Brighton. it's a great place to come for a walk, isn't it? And if you don't, I mean, you probably won't see wart-biters, but there's lots of other things to see. We can see lots of butterflies out today, and hopefully the scabious mining bees are on the field edges potentially over there, aren't they? There's quite a lot of field scabious over there.
That's right. And we've got some wild parrot here as well. A little bit of lady's bed straw.
So these umbellifers always have something on them, don't they? There's always a little bug of some description. The wild carrot has this sort of dark red dot in the middle of the white umbellifer flower, and then it's got, if I can get underneath it, it's got a really delicate sort of cage-like structure underneath, a little nest. Cool. Well, we've heard them. I don't know if you guys on the live stream heard them, but we've heard them. But I don't think we're going to be lucky enough to see them. There's a nice little butterfly to zoom in on here. Oh no, he's gone as well.
I think the clouds have just come over, and the wart-biters have all stopped now, so that makes them even harder to find.
Okay, so we'll probably call that done. So thank you to Alice, and if you're interested in volunteering for Buglife, we'll put all Alice's details in the chat afterwards. So she's looking for volunteers for surveying wart-biters. Any sightings of scabious mining bees?
Either field scabious or large scabious mining bee would be fantastic to hear as well.
Perfect. So unless there's any, does anyone have any questions for Alice?
It's all quiet.
No. Okay. Well, thanks for coming along. And if you're watching this later, thanks for watching it later. And it's goodbye from us.
Bye.
Bye, Alice.